have you on the show. What are we going to talk about today?
So we're gonna talk about Genkit, which is a fairly new GenAI framework, and we're gonna be building some cool stuff, some GenAI apps, GenAI backends, using it and interacting with AWS Bedrock and AWS Lambda.
It sounds pretty exciting. So, really, what we are doing today is looking at an additional framework that gives us the possibility to interact with AI to make it like kind of sound simple.
Exactly.
And before we start with all of the technical details, Xavi, tell me a bit about who are you? Because like, this is I think the first video call we're having, right?
Yeah, no, that's right, that's right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being in your channel. I've been following you for a while, so it's great to be here. And yeah, for me, a little bit. I'm from Spain, and I've been building things around the AWS since probably 2018 or so, mainly focused on conversational AI. I'm a community builder, AWS community builder, part of that program. I'm also Alexa champion, which is kind of like the AWS hero for Alexa,
Cool.
Microsoft MVP, and Google developer expert as well, and GitHub star. So yeah,
Whoa.
my
You,
main focus is mainly conversational AI, and now with the Gen AI and all the things with the LLMs, this thing is exploding again. You're like coming from bots to real agents that interacts like humans. So yeah, pretty interesting journey.
really interesting times as well for us to be in this time of industry, right? So you're doing a lot of things there. What's your day-to-day job? Day-to-day, I guess you're a plumber or something like that.
No, actually, like these things like related to conversational AI, that's my hobby, like my free time. And in my day-to-day job, I am like head of cloud infrastructure at VoiceFlow, which is a Canadian company. And I'm managing there all the things related to cloud and specifically AWS. We have everything hosted on AWS, so we are the ones that are managing, like all the things that we deploy on AWS, CI/CD, development environments, ephemeral environments, BI, deploying and interacting with AWS Bedrock, and so on. So yeah.
Cool. So that is kind of similar to me, where I also, in my day-to-day job, I'm an enterprise architect, not doing a lot with AWS these days. I'm doing Kubernetes. So it's pretty cool to see people live their passion outside work. And so I'm really glad that you have volunteered to join me and talk a bit about Genkit, right? Um, Now, I told you I don't know anything about Genkit. How do you sum it up? Like you said, it's a framework to build GenAI infrastructure. That's how I heard it. Explain it a bit better to me.
Yeah, it's more a GenAI framework, not like AI framework itself, like TensorFlow or JAX, or this framework is not to build models, but interact with like um, cloud services like AWS Bedrock. And it allows you to create basically GenAI apps, GenAI backends, really, really easy. We know that there are, out there are a bunch of frameworks. You have the AWS Strands, you have Google ADK, you have Agent Framework, you have Vercel ADK, and this is yet another one. But the thing that, in my opinion, that makes this um, like a differentiator of like or the most important thing of this framework is the development experience that it has, and the and how's it called, yeah, like the all the tooling that has around the development, which makes things really, really easier to debug, to like evolve, to test, to iterate, which is really, really, really important. I'm part of the core of the Genkit team, and I am mainly working on the integrations of the framework. So I am the one that like basically build the Bedrock plugin for Genkit JavaScript, Genkit Go, and I am the principal for Genkit Java. And Jenkins Java has also an AWS Bedrock plugin.
So
So
let me break it down. Like Genkit is open source then at the end?
Yes, it is
Okay.
open source.
So Genkit is an open source framework. It supports different languages, is what I hear. So you just
Yeah,
talked about TypeScript, Go, and Java. What other languages are supported?
Python and Dart now.
And Dart now. Okay, cool. And it works with all cloud providers or only with specific ones?
With most of them, like we have a specific cloud providers plugins, and also we have a plugin called OpenAI compatible API. So whenever you have an OpenAI compatible model, Jenkit will work as well.
Okay, cool. So that means it's completely agnostic in terms of the backend infrastructure that you use to host your inference for your GenAI applications. Does it kind of help you to set up the required infrastructure to run the GenAI applications as well, like CloudFormation, Terraform, whatever? Or how does it kind of interact?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, Jenkit is only at application level. We don't touch the infrastructure side of things. That's more like up to you. So you can deploy it, like containerize it and deploy whatever you want on, like Kubernetes, EKS, Lambda, or Google Cloud Engine, whatever. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that makes
cloud.
sense, right? So it like we are differentiating between the infrastructure used to run GenKit applications and the GenKit backend at the end that you're going to interact with, and I think that makes sense. And I'm just trying to set my mental model on how this actually works, which is where I'm kind of driving you towards questions. Okay, so
Yeah.
good for me. Now I understood I can use GenKit for everything that I want to do, specifically if I'm not attached to a specific cloud provider. Given most of my audience are AWS, and if you are not using AWS, please let us know in the comments so we can do another version with other backends. Today we wanted to look at using Bedrock as a backend, right? So we are assuming that if you're listening to this video, you know what Bedrock is, and you kind of understand that Bedrock gives you access to different models, and Genkit is gonna be the glue between your application talking to Bedrock, talking to one of the models behind. That's what I understood. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. That is completely correct.
Cool. Then let's talk a bit why do we need to combine them? Why can you not just build Genkit and it's going to work?
So, and there are a bunch of capabilities that the framework has that makes things easier whenever you are building your generative AI application, your GenAI backend. But before I go deeper in that, the here is the main differentiator between, for instance, strands or LangChain or ADK, these type of frameworks. Those are more for like building AI agents, and in this Genkit, like you can also build AI agents for sure. It will require more like boilerplate code, but the main focus of like here is to build like GenAI backends. For instance, like the perfect use case for to use Genkit is, let's say that you have an invoice and you want to extract all the information from that invoice. Instead of like creating an endpoint and using directly the Bedrock SDK, you can use Genkit, and I will show you in a bit, but you will have all the like the developer experience UI, which is really 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 cool, and there's not any other framework that has that developer experience so far. And also whenever you want to switch, because like on Bedrock you can switch between models, right? Like when you go there you can pick Llama, you can pick Amazon Nova, you can pick whatever you want. In this case, using Genkit is exactly the same. The code is gonna remain, like you will not touch it, and you just need to change the the model that you want to use. And another cool thing that it has is something that is called dot prompt, which basically you can have your source code in like TypeScript, Go, that like using Genkit, and then there are like some specific files called dot prompt that host the prompt itself. And it uses handlebars, which is a templating language, and you can have like some specific, like if else's and things like that in the dot prompt. And instead of having everything in the source code, and whenever you want to change the prompt, you need to release a new version, you can have everything separated, like separation of concerns, which is really important. And you're like having different cadence, like you want to change the prompt, just change the prompt in the prompt repo, and import that will be imported from your Genkit backend. So that's really important, because at the very end, when you are building your GenAI apps, um most of the time, like I would say like 75% of the time is gonna be you iterating over the prompt.
I know what you're talking about, right? I'm building that social media scheduler, which uses AI under the hood, and I made all of the mistakes that you just mentioned. And it sounds like I will need to look at adopting Genkit because I'm building my next AI-powered application right now for my son, which I'm going to talk about soon as well, right? So sounds like something I really need to look at myself. So can we dive into it? Let's try to look at how it feels and how it looks, if you
Yeah,
don't mind,
sure.
and then we can take it from there to talk a little bit about the integration structures that we have, right? How do we talk to Bedrock, and then actually also how do we host that thing on AWS later? So let's dive into sharing a screen and look at how it feels to develop with Genkit.
Let's do that. Perfect. So, well, the first point that I would suggest to go is Genkit.dev. That's the main page where you can find all the things related to like getting started, and like all the docs. Okay. Here you will find information about Genkit TypeScript, Genkit Go, Genkit Python in preview, and Genkit Dart in preview. Okay, so if you are building Flutter apps, Dart is your choice. And for the Java developers, you should go to this URL. That we will share that in the comments, because it's an unofficial port. That's basically my project, aside of like the Jenkit dev, which I am building the like the integrations, as I said. But Jenkit Java is entirely built from scratch by myself, so it's hosted in another web. So if we go to the source code itself, here is where like this is also very important from the Jenkit point of view. If you compare like LangChain and Genkit, for example, one thing that makes Genkit like very like different from other frameworks is the simplicity. It is really straight to the point. There's no a lot of like boilerplate code. Like if you want to build something using LangChain, like something really simple, it will take you, I don't know, like 50 lines or 100 lines for just like really something really simple. With Jenkit, like in less than 10 line of code, or in less than 5 lines of code, we are interacting um with like a model. So in this case, the first thing that you need to do is to install Genkit, the library. No matter the language that you are using, you will need to install Genkit. That's the base, okay? And then the next thing that you will need to install is the plugin that you want to use, okay? In this case, like in the docs, you can see like Gemini, Nano Banana, OpenAI, Anthropic. If you go to get started and you go here to model providers, you will see AWS Bedrock. Okay, this is the plugin that I built from scratch and that I'm maintaining. So you will need to import AWS Bedrock. Okay. The next thing, which is really important, is to initialize the plugin. Okay, sorry, initialize the framework. To initialize the framework, you will need to specify the list of plugins that you want to use, because this is also really important. There's no one model to like all the tasks. There are like specific models that are good to some specific things. So you will probably import some stuff from like for instance, I don't know, like GPT 4o, Mini to do like some small summaries, or you like Amazon Nova to extract some information from like PDFs, things like that. Okay, so you will put here all the like the plugins. To initialize the AWS Bedrock one, you need to specify the multiple ways that you can initialize the AWS Bedrock, like by specifying the environment variables, by specifying here the like the AWS like credentials, the regions, because AWS Bedrock is regional. It has also like global endpoints as well, like the other cloud providers. So that's more up to you. Like you can configure however you want to use it, and then the model that you want to use. Here is basically when you initialize Genkit, the model that you specify here is gonna be like the global model, but you can override it at every single time. Okay, and
So that
once
means I can switch the used model on demand within my application and always choose the purpose fit model for the task at hand that I'm trying to solve within my application. That's what you're kind of saying.
correct,
Okay, good.
that's correct. And yeah, once this is initialized, just two libraries. The next thing that you can just do is call generate. Generate is one of the most important functions within Genkit, which is basically it calls the LLM. Like this goes from like this function to the like the generate function in Genkit, that calls the one in the plugin, and that one calls AWS Bedrock, and then all the way back.
So that
And
means the calls to the backend service, and especially the calls to the LLM, in this case the calls to Bedrock, are being abstracted away by Genkit. You don't need to know the API calls, but they are directly being executed from the application, right? So
exactly.
okay, good. That means and I think we're gonna talk about that later, if I run this on Lambda, I'm gonna be able to just call Genkit API, which is then going to call the Bedrock API under the hood from Lambda?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Correct.
got it. Got it.
And you don't need to specify nothing. You just need for Lambda specifically. You just need to add to the role of that specific Lambda the inference or the invoke permissions to invoke Bedrock, and that's it. That will just work. It's really, really simple and really clean. That's the main focus of this framework, to keep it things.
Maybe that's a good chance. Let's talk about running Genkit in Lambda. Let's have a look on that diagram that you prepared for that, right? Which kind of explains the flow. Or is it too early? What do you think?
Yeah, up to you. We can talk about that now or later. I want to show you the dev UI first. What
Okay,
do
then
you
let's do
think?
that first. Yeah, go ahead. Maybe that's even
Okay.
better.
So, Genkit as a framework is what I just presented, like like a library, and then you have the plugin that you want to use. Okay, and then on the other hand is the other thing that we have been talking, which is the development experience. Okay, so let me start with that. The Genkit, when you go to the docs, you will see the developer tools. Okay, there's a CLI that you can install using npm or using the binary directly, and once you install that, you can run your source code using the CLI. And what it is gonna do is it will basically auto detect all the Genkit objects that you have been creating, and it will present that in a UI that it's running in localhost. So
Yeah.
let me show you that. Let me put this a little bit bigger. This is a source code. I'm gonna go deeper in the source code, but first let me run the UI. Okay.
Yep.
So if we go to the package.json, I have as a dependencies the Genkit latest version as of today and the Genkit AWS Bedrock. Okay. And then I have executed npm run Genkit UI. Okay. This one runs this script that basically executes the CLI with start. And then this is my Node.js code, which is my Lambda code. Okay.
Okay.
This is
Got it.
the code of Lambda.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So if
you're
we
executing the UI with the Lambda reference at the end. Yes.
exactly. So if we go to the UI, this is what we see. This is again like running in localhost, and this is the development environment that Jenkit exposes for you. And this is like what I've been like saying that is really, really, really important in terms of like for the framework. So what do we have here? The first thing is here in the models we have what we call a playground. Okay, similar to AWS Bedrock, that you have a playground there and you can interact with the models. So here you have exactly the same. Why here and why not in Bedrock? Because at the end, this is where you are gonna be developing your stuff. You're gonna be switching between this and your application. So for instance, if we are, I don't know, like interacting with Amazon Nova Pro Lite, you can like just interact from here, add a system prompt. And the most important thing as well is that Genkit out of the box provides open telemetry traces and open telemetry metrics, and you can see those from the dev UI as well, so you can
Cool.
see what's going on here, like cost, tokens in and out. You can check everything in here, okay, which is really cool. Like all the stack, as I said before, like like we call the generate method, and then we call Bedrock using the plugin, so in a very standard way. Then you can see the flows. Okay, what is a flow in Jenkit? Basically, there are reusable functions that are wrapped by Genkit, and they allows you to like invoke it or call it from the UI or from another flows. Okay.
Okay.
So we have a joke flow that you can specify. We'll go deeper to the code, but basically you need to specify a subject. For instance, jokes about dog, and it will do the here you have the traces, and here you have the output. Okay, we are using the structure
Yeah.
input and the structure output.
And does
Okay,
this UI directly go back and talk to Bedrock? If yes, I assume it uses your AWS credentials that you have in your profile. Okay.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Just checking. Yeah.
Yeah, that is completely correct.
Okay.
And then if you are defining prompts, if you remember what we mentioned about the dot prompt
Mm-hmm.
files, you will show those here, and you can invoke those prompts from the flows, and you can like just iterate the prompts over here basically. Genkit supports embedders, so all the Bedrock embedder models are also available. So if you want to build a RAG system, you can do that using Genkit as well.
Okay.
Tools, indexer and retrievers for the embedders, for the RAG systems, and the evaluations, which is also a very important piece when you are building your GenAI apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the dev UI.
Yeah. Cool. So
Really, in my
that is where developers will interact with Genkit at the end if you're doing that right. So that means that you're also gonna be generating code through this then somehow, or you're gonna be testing your prompts, you're gonna be testing your access to models and stuff like that. That's pretty
correct.
cool.
Correct. So going back to the diagram, let me show you.
And just one question on that. Can it also then help me to generate parts of the code that I need for Genkit with the flows? So, like, if I generate flows or if I generate prompts, can I kind of use that and create the required code for it that I will then push to my Git repository? Or is that not yet available?
You can use tools for to do so
Okay,
100%.
but the UI today doesn't support that.
The UI today, that is a great question. If you have a flow that uses a tool that tool generates code, yes, you can use that. You can do
Got it.
that.
Okay, got it. But like, if you go back to the prompts over here, like you have the prompts, I cannot modify or create prompts. It only auto discovers the existing prompts if you have them, right?
Correct.
So I cannot
Correct.
use that as an interface to create stuff in the
Oh, I
background.
see what you mean.
Now I got okay.
Yeah, you cannot create flows from here. You cannot create prompts from here. Although you can create, I think is that data sets are the only things that you can create for your
Okay.
evaluations.
Okay.
That's the only
Got
thing
it.
you can.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. Yeah. Thank you for that. That makes sense. Good. Then let's move on
Yeah.
to.
So let's see the diagram that we have here. Basically, this is well what we have prepared for this podcast. Basically, what we have is, as we said, we have the clients, like the HTTP clients, like the AWS Bedrock client and the Genkit client SDK. And then within AWS, when we deploy Genkit as an AWS Lambda, what we are gonna have is, of course, we will need to expose that through an API gateway or through a Lambda function URL if you want to use HTTPS streaming. And then from there, in the code, I will show you in a bit, the AWS Bedrock plugin exposes a function called onCallGenkit that basically wraps a Genkit flow as an AWS Lambda endpoint, okay, in just one line. Again, like keep it simple and keep it clean and reusable, okay.
Cool. Yeah.
So when you go to that on call Genkit, it goes to the Genkit runtime, to the flow. It will go to either AI generate or AI generate stream. It will use the AWS Bedrock plugin to interact with Bedrock, and it will choose one of the Bedrock models that you are gonna be using. Okay,
Okay. Cool.
this is the main flow, and like all the way back to the user when the request is completed,
Mhm.
and then attached to it. And the coolest thing is, without touching your source code, you have the dev tooling here that you can use as we just saw.
Okay, cool. So do I get that right? That we will deploy a Lambda function that is called Genkit runtime in my AWS account, and that Lambda function will then be used by all Genkit's applications that we built on the same account. Is that what what you're
No,
saying?
no, you will target a Lambda, and that Lambda has a Genkit runtime,
Okay,
and
got
that
it.
runtime will call AWS Bedrock.
Okay, got it. Sorry for the misunderstanding.
Yeah, you can deploy within the same Lambda, you can deploy different flows.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I can have multiple flows in the same Lambda that would then also interact with the same Genkit runtime, but there is no central Genkit runtime Lambda that is being called by others, right? We would always be embedding that in within the same Lambda function. That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yes, you can, with more code and a different architecture, you can achieve that. Because Genkit has the ability, we have a Genkit client that has the ability to call other flows. So you can kind of like, instead of having like, for instance, like multiple flows in one Lambda, if you want to have multiple Lambdas with multiple flows, you can call the other flows using the Genkit client as well.
Okay, that makes
That,
sense. And that
that's
would then
embedded.
be the Genkit client running on a Lambda function, calling out to a different Genkit runtime endpoint that you're kind of
Correct.
creating. Okay, cool. I think I understood that. Let's How does the Genkit runtime here discover which are the available models somehow, right? So like it queries Bedrock APIs to then identify the available models, or is this somehow built in?
That's it's built in, it is exposed by the plugin. So there are two ways. You can define your own models. So for instance, like I am the one that is maintaining the plugins. So whenever there's a new plugin, I basically add it to the sorry, when there's a new model, I add it to the plugin. But in case I didn't push that new version, there's a function called define model, where you can basically add the string of the model that you want to use, and that's it. And now that works out of the box.
Okay, cool. Good. So let's look at the code. How would this like at the end look like in the code, this Lambda function that we have, right? And then I would assume all of the deployment mechanisms that we already know. I think that's what is
Yeah,
gonna be there like the same way. Like I can deploy the Lambda with any framework of infrastructure as code that I want, right?
correct, correct, correct. So in this case, what I'm gonna show you is a Lambda being deployed with serverless framework. But again, like you can use Terraform, you can use CloudFormation, you can use CDK, up to you, or like any infrastructure as code. So let's dive into the code. So again, here we need just two things. The first thing is Genkit, and the second thing is the plugin. Okay, we initialize Genkit with the plugin that we are gonna use, and in this case, we are gonna be using Amazon Nova Pro V1. Okay. I'm gonna create a flow that basically generates a story based on the topic. Okay.
Okay.
So as I said, Genkit supports input schema and output schema.
Mhm.
Okay. For input schema, what in Genkit JS, which is or Genkit TypeScript, this the one that we are showing right now. What you are gonna create is an object. Okay, we are using SOD, which is a validation library, really famous in the TypeScript ecosystem. So basically, we're gonna create an object that we're gonna say, okay, for when you call this flow, this Genkit flow, you will need a topic, a style, and a length.
Mhm.
And you're gonna be, like you need to add a describe. You can specify if it is an, like an enum, the type, if it is optional or not. But the describe is really, really important because this is the one that we're gonna Genkit uses under the hood to instruct the model.
Okay.
Okay. And then the output schema. Here I did not add the describe, but you should add it, okay? Because that's gonna be part of the context when you call the the
The
model.
model at the end. Okay.
Exactly. So for a story output schema, what we have is a title, genre, story, word count, and themes. Okay. And then once we have that, we just need to create a flow. Okay, in the same sense that we have done like AI dot generate for
Mhm.
that simple example that we mentioned. In this case, we are gonna call define flow. Okay, so
Okay.
what we are gonna give is we're gonna give one name to that flow, the input schema, the output schema that we just
Create it up
uh,
there.
created up there, correct? And then we are gonna create a prompt, and at the very end we are gonna call generate. Okay, this is wrap within a flow. We are gonna specify, okay, the schema is this one, and if there's no output, for example, like throw an error, and that's it. Okay.
Okay, now a question on the prompt portion over here. Like a little bit earlier, as you said, the prompt should be in prompt files. We're not showing this here, but theoretically, I could call that out into a separate file, and Genkit would then read that. Okay, cool, got it.
Correct. That is completely correct. For this case, like to make it simpler, and in the source code is in the TypeScript code. But as you know, as a best practice, you can move that to a .prompt file that you can like add parameters, add input schema and output schema as well, and invoke that prompt file from your TypeScript code. Okay.
Cool.
Let me go down because I have like more flows defined, and let me go to the Lambda handlers. Okay, the Lambda handlers, what we have is basically the on-call Genkit. This is the main part if you want to deploy your Genkit flow as an AWS Lambda. The cool thing here is that this is part of the Bedrock plugin that you just need to it is in the same library. Okay, and you just like the same way that you export an HTTP function when you are building your Lambda is exactly the same concept. You can specify some like HTTP options, like cores, headers, validations, and so on, and the function, the flow that you want to expose. Okay, within or everything wrapped in the encode Genkit. You export that, and then at the very end, you just need to export this. Okay, and
Mhm.
that's it. It will
That's it. Okay.
auto when you are deploying your Lambda using, for instance, like serverless framework. It will read your TypeScript code and it will auto detect all the flows that you are gonna be exposing within your Lambda as a Lambda endpoints, and it will just create it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is really, I don't know, like in total, I think we're talking about like less than 50 lines of code, like really, really clean and really, like self-explanable. Like whenever you are reading the code, you will understand what's going on under the hood, which is really, really important. Um, so if we test that in the dev UI, the story generator flow, this is really cool because the dev UI the auto detects the input schema. So that this is why you are seeing here topic and length, and this is why you are seeing medium, because what we have specified in our source code is by default. Let me show
Medium,
you.
yeah.
Is medium. Okay. So for instance, I don't know, if we put like medium mystery, it will give us in structure output a medium length
Sorry.
um, story with all the things that we have specified, which is word count, themes,
Cool.
title.
Wow. This is quick. This is really easy to integrate. I like it.
And with serverless framework, if for those folks that are familiar, the only thing that you need to add is basically add permissions to invoke Bedrock, which makes sense, and that's it. The other part, the other stuff is just, like you need to specify the story generator handler, and then how do you want to expose this, and
Yeah, it's
that's
just wiring it up at the end. Yeah.
exactly.
Cool. This looks easy. So, how do I bring this to life? Like, it's always simple to see this in like small systems like this and demo applications and stuff like that. But where do you see use cases of really using Genkit in bigger applications? Are you using that already in your applications that you're owning in your organization?
Yeah, so we're using, well, in all my side projects, I'm using Genkit. Like all my live applications are using Genkit under the hood. So on the dev side, it scales because you have the dev UI. So all the developers can jump there, like and interact with the dev UI. And on the enterprise side, when you are in a real world, when you're deploying this, it also scales. Either if you are using a serverless pattern like the one that we showed you today, or if you are deploying this in Kubernetes. Why? Because Jenkit has, like traces, has metrics, and you can scale based on those metrics. You can scale those, or you can observe and create like monitors. You can check how your if you are building an agent using Jenkins, you can observe how your the outputs are, if they are good, how your users are interacting with your backends and all that stuff. So at the very end, it's just, like a backend framework. And you in terms of architecture, you can deploy it wherever you want. You can auto scale it however you want, and it's really easy to integrate. Like, for instance, let's say that you wanna, instead of having like a one massive flow, you wanna split that in different flows. You can interact with all of them by calling each other. There are also middlewares, like that can interact between Genkit and the model. You can put there a middleware that Genkit supports. um, and in terms of use cases, it's, like the limitation is your mind, because you can build most of all the use cases. Of course, there are, like really tricky things that are more, like more AI specific. Like for instance, I don't know, like you want to build like a really specific AI system. Probably LangChain will cover you better, like some specific re-ranking or things like that. Probably LangChain will cover you in that sense better than Jenkit. But if in terms of like enterprise applications, like the one that we're using in our day-to-day jobs, Jenkins will cover most of your use cases. I would say 99% of them.
Yeah, this really sounds exciting, and it really sounds like a step towards making building GenAI applications a little bit simpler. Like Strands being completely focused on building agents, right? This is like a more holistic approach as well on how you really do that. So for me, this was an amazing learning. Xavi, I might pick your brain on, well, I think I told you I'm building that social media scheduler that uses AI, but I started to build a vocabulary training app for my son, and he needs that, so I'm gonna need to help him there. And it's built in Flutter. Now that Genkit supports Start, I think it's a great idea to look at making that happen. And I might pick your brain to get it integrated
Please do, yeah.
in the
And you
future.
can use Flutter. There's a plugin that you can use the models in device with Genkit,
Cool.
so you can run everything offline in your phone. So that's really
Cool.
cool.
That's what I'll need to look at next. Sabi, if you look 2 months ahead, where is Genkit going, and how will it help developers like you to to have a simpler way of building GenAI applications? What do you think?
So, I mean, I think right now, like our main focus is to continue keep building stuff in our like developer ecosystem, or improving our developer experience by adding more stuff to the developer UI. That's the very first thing. And then in the framework there are a bunch of things like coming right now. Like we are if you go to the repo, you can check, since this is open source, you can see all the RFCs for new features. And one that we are building right now is middleware v2, which is, 'cause right now the middleware that has Genkit just wraps the generate call. Like you have like some code that works before the generate and after the generate. And now we want to build middleware v2 that it will allow you to create middlewares between I don't know, like uh, before and after tool calling, before and after model calling, before and after flow calling, like more generic. So what we basically want is to allow users to create more complex GenAI apps using or having a pleasant developer experience. So that's what we are building for in these upcoming 2 months.
Cool. Last call for actions. How do people get involved? How can they help maybe you or the project in general?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that why I joined Genki, the core. The team behind the framework is really welcoming. So if you go to jenkit.dev, just try the code and go to the GitHub to like open an issue, create a pull request. You will hear from us like really quick. And then we have a Discord as well. The Discord, like whenever you have an issue, whenever you have an idea, like you will hear from us. Like, okay, why this one, let's say that you wanna like create a new feature, like why do you wanna add this, like we will ask you for that, and if that makes sense we will build it. So yeah. And then for the Java, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Everything is centralized on Discord here under the Genkit, the Genkit server.
Server.
The people
Cool.
there.
Okay, so let's add some links to the show notes as well. Javi, last but not least, how can people reach out to you if they have follow-up questions?
Yep. Anyone can find me at Shavidop on GitHub, on Twitter, on YouTube. So
Everywhere.
yeah, and
Okay, good. So let's add those to the show notes as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to walk us through using Genkit to build AI applications. And I think that was a pretty good learning, especially also for me, as it was completely new to me. So thanks again for taking the time. And yeah, looking forward to have you back when I introduce Genkit for my Flutter applications, if I ever get to do that.
that would be really cool. That would be really cool.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.